So what I want to do, everybody, pardon the informal appearance today, but I wanted to talk about a couple things, and when we get ready to put some stuff on the screen, I can do that. Brett, are you looking at my visage in a large form right now?
Yes, it looks very good.
Well, I look very good. That's what the situation is. So, even though I need a haircut, so
I hear there's great places in Vegas to get haircuts.
Oh, you can get you can get trimmed in a lot of ways in Vegas. So what I want to do is kind of do a little potpourri today. You know, we've got the infamous or famous Omar Perdue coming on next Saturday. I don't want anybody to miss that. He's a very, very bright guy, an excellent motivator, and maybe he can do something with some of these guys on the call right now that I haven't been able to do, and get them motivated to get out and get some properties and do some business. So just make a note that Omar Perdue, nationally, internationally known motivator, one of the best in the world, as a matter of fact, going to be with us next Saturday. So please, guys, invite your friends. Get your friends and buddies and neighbors and so forth on the line, and we'd appreciate it. Now, another thing, you know, just kind of cleaning up some business before we get rolling here, is we want to be able to set up an incentive program for our affiliate members. We're going to be talking about that, and for you guys, you know, too, whether you're an affiliate or not, you should be. But we want to be able to do some stuff for you, like give things that would help you in your business, and sometimes just the things that were nice to have, even though they might not help you in the business. So we're working on that right now. So there's some changes being made in the company, and that's one of them. Is we want to be able to say at the end of the meeting, hey, I'm going to send you this, or I'm going to send you that, and so what? We're doing too little of that in the past and waiting for you guys to ask. So we're going to, for the time being, we're going to tell you what's available to you for free, and it'll be something of value, and you just let us know that you want it so that we're not wasting your time. So with that said, just kind of hang on, and in order to get everybody hanging on to the end of the meeting, we're going to wait till the end of the meeting to give the goodies away. And right now, it's going to be Rusty's obligation to say, hey, Dad, you forgot to give the goodies away. So we'll figure out something as we go. So let's get rolling, guys. Welcome aboard, everybody, and welcome to our long-missing Mr. Brett Ehlers. Brett, it's really good to have you with us. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Thank you. Me too. Great to be back with you, Bill. Love working with you.
Yeah, well, it's obviously, you know, the feeling is mutual, and there's several things that you and I need to talk about for these folks today to kind of get everybody making some money. The whole issue here, guys, is you're calling in on Saturday mornings, and I really appreciate that. We're trying to send out bulletins, and we're trying to get the call-in list up to 1,000 people. We got up to around 200 for a few days, and then it kind of dropped back down because of our lack of follow-through on the promotional stuff and what have you, but we're getting there. We got a good group on today, and we're proud of that group, and we're proud of you guys being here. But the whole point, as I mentioned before the meeting started, and I'll say it all again, there's no, oh, look at that in the background there. Wonder who that was with the black hair and the brown eyes. And,
your beautiful bride.
She wanted to make sure my door was closed. But I want to make sure that everybody understands there's no reason to waste your time with me or Brett. And there's no reason to destroy a good chunk of your Saturday morning coming on this call if you're not going to do anything. If I can't help you, there is no reason for me to be here either. So the whole point in all of this is I want to help you. I want to help you make some money. If you can't make any money, then we got a problem. The whole purpose of this is to put money in your pocket. My pocket's okay. I mean, I'm good. I don't worry about that. I worry about being able to provide a service that's worth something. And the only way I can do that is to provide a service that works. So kind of hang on to that thought for a little while. And here's a couple things that I keep harping on that I don't think is coming across as clearly as it should. And that's this. We have a product. We have a system that nobody else has. There are people who try to emulate what we do, and they fall short, and they end up in court, and they get sued from one side to the other. And in a couple of cases, I've had people that end up in jail because of trying to do something like what we do, and they don't know how. Now, I don't worry about those people. There's some pretty sizable names out there that are trying to do land trusts and so forth, and it's okay. We've got people that I truly respect in the business. Lou Brown, Bill Bronchick, and so on. In California, I haven't heard Ward Hannigan's name in a long time, but he's one of them. And Jack Miller, I think Jack Miller passed away. He was big. The land trust. Ron LeGrand tried to get involved a little bit, but his cocky and arrogance is kind of held him back in doing some of this stuff. But, no offense. I have a low regard for certain people that you don't have to share with. And I have a little trouble being very diplomatic in mentioning those things. But these people are trying to do what we do, but they either don't do what we do or they do it very dangerously. For example, Bill Bronchick doesn't purport to do what we do. Bill Bronchick has a course on using land trust to transfer real estate and so forth, and his course is merely a course on simple trust and saying to his students very honestly, land trust, holding your property in a land trust is the very best way to go, and so on. Now, even with Bill, he's a friend of mine. I think I like him anyway, and he's really a smart guy. He's not competing with us. He doesn't do what we do. We do a third-party trustee, co-beneficiary, title holding, escrow type title holding land trust. We don't do what Bill Bronchick does. Bill Bronchick will tell you it doesn't matter whether the trustee is a third party or not. It could be yourself. And the reason for that is he follows that saying that I've used in the past, you don't need a parachute to jump off a curb. So he says if you're not going to be holding the property for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, and you've got another way to do it, maybe you don't need to do what Bill Gatten does, and that's fine. And the same with Lou Brown. Lou Brown doesn't purport to do what we do, doesn't try to do what we do. He talks about the benefits of land trusts and how they work, and he shows in his courses how to use land trusts and so forth in terms of just transferring real estate. Now, whether I agree with some of the finer points like who should be a trustee and who's not allowed to be a trustee and so forth, it doesn't really matter. The course that he sells is worth the money that you pay for it. Same with Bill or anybody else in the business. However, here's what you guys have, and I think that there's just too few people recognizing this. What we have seems complicated to some people. It's not complicated to me. But when you're first introduced to the idea, it seems complicated. And I want to find out why my camera is a gog here. My camera, something came loose on the hickey bang right there. A little digression there. So the thing is, I want to get you guys around the complicated parts. I don't want you thinking about the complicated. There's nothing complicated about getting into a Volkswagen and turning the key and driving it away. It's not complicated at all. And if you've ever driven a car, you're not going to have any trouble driving a Volkswagen, whether you've ever been in it or not, or whether you've ever driven a Volkswagen or not. However, if I were to sell you a Volkswagen and tell you what the benefits and the features and the advantages are, I'm going to have to get complicated with you. I'm going to have to talk about carburation. I'm going to have to talk about carburetor linkage. I'm going to have to talk about cubic inch displacement of the cylinders. And I'm going to have to talk about, or cubic centimeters in the case of a Volkswagen. But I'm going to have to talk to you about these things. I'm going to talk to you about the electrical system and the safety features and whatnot. Well, by the time I do this, I've got a book an inch thick explaining what a Volkswagen is and how it works. how the body's made. You can't go out and build a Volkswagen today. Why not? Well, because it's too complicated. But what you can do, if you have one and you want to sell it to somebody else, you can hand them a key and tell them to get in it and drive away. That's what people are missing. That's the point they're missing with the equity holding a trust model. You don't want to tell them how to build it. You don't want to tell your clients, every single nook and cranny. You just want them to drive it away. So with that in mind, think about this for a second. How complicated is it? And I know you guys have all heard this before, but I'm going to do it again. How complicated is it to put an asset into a trust? You find somebody who's willing to be a trustee, and you give the asset to them. And you say to them, listen, hold this for me. And let me borrow it anytime I need it. And when I ask you to relinquish it, give it back to me. In other words, when I want to revoke this trust arrangement, I want you to just give it back to me. You just created a trust. How complicated is that? You're sitting with some friends watching a football game, and you decide you're going to bet with somebody. I'll bet you $10 that the Chargers or the Rams are going to win. and your buddy says, I bet they're not. Well, you're going to bet. So what you're going to do, you're not going to trust him. You're not going to say, okay, well, pay me if I win. And he's not going to say to you, pay me if you win. If I win, if I sound like I'm confused here, it's because I'm thinking 2 steps ahead. Shouldn't do that. Bad chess. You're not going to trust each other. You're going to set up a trust. You're going to find a third party to hold the money. You're going to say, hey, Bob, here's my $10, and John's going to give you his $10, and you distribute the funds when we find out who won the money. And that's a trust. If you go into the bank and you open a bank account and you say, okay, I'm going to put all my money in the bank and I'm going to write checks on it. Well, that's creating a trust. You're the beneficiary. You get to write the checks. The bank's the trustee, and they're in charge of holding the money for you. But you've created a trust. So there's nothing complex about a trust. There's nothing that's not simple. Now, if you understand that and you've got a house, and you, for any reason, don't want to own the house, but you want to use it and have 100% of the benefits of ownership, but without being on the title, give it to somebody else and say, here, you hold the title to this house and let me use it. And when I tell you to give me the title back, just do it. And they say, okay, you just created a land trust. That's how complex it is. Now, let's say that you own this house. You're going to give it to somebody else to hold for you. But you don't want to live in it. Well, what do you have to do? Find somebody else to live in it and write them up a lease agreement. So now they're leasing the property, but since you gave it to that person other than yourself, you're not the owner anymore because they are. But they're holding it for you for your benefit and so on. So now you write up a lease agreement with the guy you want to live in, that you want to live in the property. How difficult is it to write a lease agreement for somebody? Not difficult at all. Now, after you put this person in the property, leasing it from your trust, how difficult is it to write a note? Let's say you use a tube of lipstick, write it on a square of toilet paper that says, hey, let's sell this house in 5 years, and when we do, you can have some of the profit. That's called a beneficiary agreement. Got another square that you write it down and say, okay, I want to write a letter to the trustee telling him, hey, this guy is going to be another beneficiary in the same trust. Now, how's that? We don't care if it's written in a tube of lipstick on a piece of toilet paper. It doesn't make any difference as long as the trustee has the direction. Now, we finished. How difficult is it? How complicated is it? Well, it's not. Here is the complexity. Here is what makes you the money. Understanding that small part of what we do is pretty easy stuff. Create a trust, real simple. Create a lease, real simple. Create an assignment of beneficial interest, simple. Create a beneficiary agreement, like a partnership understanding between the two beneficiaries. Simple. That's it. You're done. But here is the complexity. Here is what makes you the money. There's a law out there now called the Dodd-Frank Act. Now, Dodd-Frank Act is designed to protect people, protect consumers and wannabe homeowners from the vicious, egregious nature of the lending institution. So they pass this law that says, okay, from now on, you bozos making mortgage loans, we're not going to let you do it the way you used to. You cannot any longer make a mortgage loan to somebody if they don't fully qualify under specific parameters to get the loan. They have to have the perfect debt-to-income ratio. They have to have the perfect credit. And you can't write an adjustable rate mortgage. And no payment can adjust to anything else for at least 5 years. No more interest-only loans. No more of this crap of letting the borrower decide whether he wants to pay interest or principal every month. That's all out. That was used in order to suck people in and then foreclose on their houses because they couldn't pay. And you people in that banking industry, you did that so many millions of times, you virtually bankrupted the entire United States. So we're going to put a stop to that. We're not going to let that happen anymore. Now, what happened with that stop in Dodd-Frank, it affected anyone who was making a mortgage loan. So they said that if you own a house or you go buy a house, you can't go loaning money to somebody to buy the house from you. Because if you do, it's okay, but you're going to have a mortgage broker's license. And if you're going to finance the house for somebody, you've got to be under exactly the same constrictions and restrictions as banks are, because you're a mortgagor. Now, if you're the mortgagee in this particular case, so since you're the lender, the mortgagee, you're going to have to comply and comport with the same regulations that anybody in the mortgage industry has to comply with. That's all Dodd-Frank is. It's nothing more than that. Now, Rusty brought up before a meeting day, my son, Russ, who's one of the operative partners in the business today, brought up an interesting point. He says, well, what about these companies that, let's say that Brett trains for example, that the flipping Los Angeles or flipping Las Vegas, and they're doing landslide in business because their students are actually going out and flipping properties and making money. Well, how does somebody pick up 2 or 3 properties and then finance them for somebody else? Well, they don't do that. If they pick up 2 or 3 properties and they then are financing them for someone else, they're going to have to comply with Dodd-Frank. But what happens is, if that person that they're selling the house to gets their own mortgage loan from somebody else, then they're not going to be involved. Nobody's financing anything for them other than a licensed mortgage broker. They're qualifying for a loan. They're going through exactly what Dodd-Frank says they should, and they're buying the house from the flipper. Now, the flipper can't finance somebody's house under most circumstances. However, even the flipper can finance 2 or 3 a year, as long as certain requirements are met and so forth, as long as the people are not going to be living in the house. A flipper can finance a property for an investor, for example, or they can finance 1 a year for a resident if they already own the house, and so on. So that's what Dodd-Frank is. Now, why do I make such a big deal out of that? Because there's so many ways around any issues with Dodd-Frank. The reason for that is that it opens up the world for somebody who understands what I just told you. If you know what I just said, you can go out and show people who own properties exactly how to finance those properties for anybody they want to without violating Dodd-Frank. You can have somebody who owns a property, whether he got it on a flip purchase or not, who owns a property because he got it under a lease purchase arrangement, or he got it under any sort of a financing arrangement, whatever. You can show them how they can finance as many as they want to anybody, whether they're going to live in it or not, if you understood what I just said and if you understood what we do in this business. Because if you can, Dodd-Frank doesn't have anything to do with personal property. Dodd-Frank doesn't mention your car or your television set or your stamp collection. It only talks about real estate. So what would you do if there was a way to just point a magic wand at that house that you own and zap it and suddenly turn it into personalty? In other words, your ownership of that asset is no longer realty. Bam, because of your magic wand, you just turned it into personalty. Well, if it's personalty, you can finance it all day long for anybody you want to. If you've got a diamond ring worth $10,000 and you want to carry the paper on it, Dodd-Frank doesn't have anything to do with that. If you've got an automobile and you want to sell it to a high school kid, but you say, hey, I know, buddy, you don't have enough money to buy it, but why don't you pay me $200 a month and we'll call it even? You can do that all day long because it's personalty. Now, how do you turn a house, which is real estate, into something that's no longer real estate? How do you turn real property into personal property, personalty? Real simple. You give the asset, which is real estate, to somebody else. Let them own the real estate. And then turn around and have them understand that you want the benefits that can be derived from real estate ownership. You don't want the real estate. You just want to have the benefits of owning the real estate. When you buy stock in a corporation, you get the benefit of that corporation's assets, but you don't own the assets. What you own is a personal property interest in the corporate assets. So you've just converted their money and their assets into personalty. You could do the same thing with a house. All you got to do with a house, if you want to make personalty out of it, you can put it in an LLC. Well, if you're a member of an LLC, you don't own the house. The LLC does. Limited liability company. So it doesn't mean that the company has any limited liability. It's a misnomer. But you do, because you don't own it. You're a member of an LLC that owns it. You buy stock in a corporation. You don't own it. You're just a corporate stockholder. That's personal property. So understand, if you know how to do that, here are the questions that come up. Yeah, well, you could turn it into personal property, but how does that help anybody? Because now you don't have any way to write off your real estate for income tax purposes. Well, that's true unless you understand another one of the complexities that we talk about. You can write it off because the IRS says you can. The IRS says very clearly that if the personal property that you own is in the form of a beneficial interest in one of these things called a title holding Illinois type land trust, well, you're not going to trick us. We're going to treat you the same as we would any owner of real estate. We're not going to acknowledge that the trust has transferred anything into anything. We're going to treat your ownership as real estate, and we're going to tax you the same as we tax any owner of real estate. Well, that sounds onerous in the beginning, but it's not. What it says is now you're going to get not only the taxation of an owner of real estate, but you're also going to be treated for income tax purposes and deduction benefits, even though you don't own the real estate. Because the IRS looks through trusts. They don't recognize trusts per se. They look through the land trust. They say, as far as we're concerned, if you're a beneficiary of one of those crazy things, you're the owner of the real estate. They're not going to acknowledge that it even exists. They're going to say, you're basically a partner in the property, and you're going to be treated as any partner in any property, and you're going to get all the benefits that we have to offer in terms of income tax write-off. You're going to have to take the write-off, if you're smart, for mortgage interest and property tax. You're going to have to if you're not living in the property and you're holding your interest as an investor, co-owner, then you're going to have to take the depreciation. If you don't take it, we don't care, but you're going to have to pay us anyway, because if you take it, you're going to have to recapture it. If you don't take it, you're going to have to pay the same amount, whether you take it or not, so you might as well take it, use it or lose it, as they say. So think about that for a second. If you have a vehicle that you can work with, where you can take a non-transferable mortgage loan and let somebody else take over the payments, and know that the bank, even though their contract says that, no transferring, no sale of the property, and if you do transfer ownership in the property, we're going to foreclose on the loan. You might have 60 days at most to pay us off completely, or you're going to lose your house, and we're going to take it away from you and sell it and take the money and put it in our bank, so forth. That's what it says. That's the due on sale clause of the loan. It's usually paragraph 17 of most mortgages, and it says very clearly, you can't sell this house, you can't transfer the ownership to someone else, you can't do that, unless the transfer is to a trustee in an inter vivos trust for asset protection purposes. Well, if you take a look at Garn-St. Germain Act, which is Title 12 of the U.S. Code, paragraph 1701J3, it clearly says, I think it's either section 8 or paragraph 8 or 9 of that section, it says very clearly, you can put a property in an inter vivos trust. It doesn't say land trust or family trust or charitable remainder trust. It just says inter vivos trust, as long as the trust is revocable, and as long as within the trust itself, within the trust document, there is no transfer of occupancy rights. So that doesn't mean that you couldn't put a duplex into a land trust with a mortgage on it, put it into a land trust and lease one of the units to somebody. You don't have to live there. And you're not transferring any occupancy rights in the trust anyway. The transfer of occupancy rights is done by the lease agreement, which is separate from the trust and is not recorded in any public record anyway. And there's no due on sale violation. So now you've got Dodd-Frank consideration. How else could you do business and finance property on an owner-carry basis? How else would you do it without running afoul of federal regulation? All right, now we go back to another federal regulation, the Garn-St. Germain Act. You know that it's not against the law. Garn-St. Germain is a federal law, but you know that it's not against the law to violate a due on sale clause. Not at all. The due on sale clause violation merely means that if the bank chooses to, they can deem that a violation of their loan agreement and go ahead and do whatever is necessary to recover their investment. But for somebody to violate it, that's not against the law. It's like Bill Bronchick says, there's no due on sale jail. It's just that the banks don't want you doing that, and they've got the federal government on their side to say that if you do that, and the bank wants to make a big deal out of it, they can, illegally. The federal government allows them to call the note due and payable and kick you out of the house and take it away from you and sell it and put your babies in the street, whatever they want to do. So now think about this for a second. I've just given you two gigantic chunks of super explosives that you can use in this business that nobody else can. Who do you know who knows how to sell a property with owner financing, leaving the existing mortgage in place, letting somebody else take over the payments, and not violate Garn-St. Germain? Title 12, the U.S. Code, paragraph 1701J3. Who do you know who can do it? Nobody. You. Who do you know who can owner finance properties all day long and not run afoul of the Dodd-Frank Act? Nobody. You. Who do you know that can make what is tantamount to a house loan or a mortgage loan, tantamount to that, not a mortgage loan, but something very close to it? Who do you know who can do that without involvement of HOPA, TILA, and RESPA? That's Homeowners Equity Protection Act and Truth in Lending Act and Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act and the FCRA, which is Fair Credit Reporting Act, and on and on and on. Who do you know who can do that? Nobody. You. So here's the question. If I didn't go any further with this stuff, wouldn't you think this is putting somebody in an absolutely perfect position within this marketplace to be able to go out and sort through people who have properties and find some of those millions, just a few people who've got houses that don't want them anymore? Now, what's going to happen when you say you find somebody who's got a house and they don't want it anymore? You're going to say, well, why not you want it? Well, because I owe more on it than it's worth. Oh, really? Well, what are you doing about that? Well, I tried to get a short sale, and they won't give me a short sale. I tried to get a loan modification. I don't qualify. I've got too many assets and so on. So I'm just stuck. I'm going to have to wait for the property to appreciate over time. In the meantime, since the payments are so high and I can't rent it out for anything close to that, I'm just going to have to sit back and suffer with a gigantic negative cash flow. Now, do you see it kind of a little opening there? That's something that you might be able to do for them that nobody else can do? Sure. Personally, I'm right now in Las Vegas area. I'm looking for houses that are over encumbered. I'm the only guy who can go to somebody and say, listen, I don't care if your house is over encumbered or not. I'll take over the payments and just let me have it. Let me take the property off your hands. Let's put this property in a trust for you so that you never have to worry about me and so on, so that, my divorces or death and dying probate actions and lawsuits and creditor claims and all that can never attach to the house while you are on the loan for it. And also so we don't violate any due on sale clauses and all this kind of stuff. That puts me in a really nice position with the person with an over-encumbered property. Now, not to digress, but I want you to understand, but here's what's going through your mind right now. Yeah, well, but the property's over-encumbered. Who would want to come in and live in it and own it and so forth if it's over-encumbered? Well, it would be someone who says, oh, that's a beautiful house. Gosh, I wish I could own something like that. So I'll just see if they will rent it to me. So they come to me and they say, hey, I see that beautiful house. Can I rent the house? I say, well, sort of. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll let you own the house. How's that? Really? Yeah, you're going to come in and you're going to pay X number of dollars. Fair market rent on that property is about $2,000 a month, but I'm going to charge you $2,500 a month. Why? Well, because I'm going to give you ownership in the property. If you are in the 1/3 tax bracket paying $2,000 a month, that means that at the end of every month, you're paying $3,000. You pay the government a third of what you earn. You got to go earn $3,000 in order to do that and still have $2,000 left over for the landlord. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you have it after tax for $2,500. Oh, wow. You mean I'm saving $500 a month? Yeah. Well, what about the ownership? Well, you've got ownership. What we're going to do is we'll sell this property in a couple of years, say 5 or 6 years, and if it has, at that time, if there's any appreciation, we'll just split it. If not, hey, nothing ventured, nothing gained. You've saved $500 a month over that period of time and been able to live in an absolutely gorgeous house that you couldn't have afforded otherwise because you couldn't qualify for the loan, much less come up with the down payment that would be required. Now, at that particular point, I don't have any problem telling it's over encumbered. None of their concern at that point. They're going to be able to get in and save a lot of money, over encumbered or not. They're going to get in and they're going to have the beautiful home that they can show off to all their friends and everything else. They're going to live a whole different lifestyle than they could ever afford before and so forth. How many people do you know who can do that? I can. Brett can. And you can. Now, if that's not magic, I don't know what magic is. Okay? That's magic. So, Brett, I'll tell you what. I would love for you to jump in at some point along the way and tell me what you think of what I just said. And don't be bashful to tell me I'm full of baloney if you want to.
Well, you're definitely not full of baloney.
Oh, that's good. We've got a good
Absolutely.
start on that then.
Okay, yes. With Dodd-Frank coming into play, of course, the proponents of Dodd-Frank were out there tooting the horn that, hey, the home industry isn't going to be affected. This is protecting the consumer. We're not going to see a reduction in people being able to get loans. And we've just gotten the first quarter statistics, the honest ones, not the one out of Washington, that have given us the statistics on loan originations. They are down 58% over last year from the first quarter. The next thing that has occurred, and of course a bump up by a point in the interest rate has affected this somewhat, but people being able to refinance their properties, those are now down 75% over the same time period, or not the same time period, but from the last quarter of 2013, the refinancers are down now 75%. Even if we took all of the foreclosed properties out of the equation, I mean, this has been an anomaly. It is not something that has been the norm. We've done real estate investing based on population movement between the destructive times, the time of the RTC in the 80s, and then this go around the last 6 years. And investing has been done on population movement. Well, that population movement would be someone getting married, someone getting a wonderful job, and they're going to move to another community. Perhaps there was the loss of a loved one. Just life events created real estate investing, and it wasn't just the good deals that came from someone that the bank stole their house from them in a foreclosure. And what is happening now is there's not enough people out there that are able to get loans to be able to absorb just population movement. So that puts everyone on this call in an incredibly great position to help people to move ahead with their life and still be able to sell their house safely, doing the seller financing until things get such that there's enough people coming back into the market to be able to get loans to buy the real estate outright. Well, if our members are putting in a buyer incubation system and creating their own group of buyers that are looking to buy homes without bank qualifying, and if the network members are out there getting in touch with these people that are having life movement happening in their life, we've got a huge business that isn't tied to anything that has to do with the foreclosures and the distressed market sales that are out there as well. And I was excited. Of course, a lot of people aren't, but I was sure excited with those first quarter stats when I got them here about a week ago.
Well, Brett, a couple of things that I wanted to ask you. First of all, you talked about a buyer incubation program, and I like that term. I know what it means, but would you mind kind of explaining that to our guys?
Yes, absolutely. This is where you put together a marketing campaign free with a multitude of websites that are specific for the area that you're working in. And you put the advertising out there to bring buyers to you that, this is the ad that I use. Buy your home without bank qualifying and fix your credit too. And I get 4 responses in that advertising, and these are the people that we glean through, and then the ones that we keep, we put into incubation. Okay, now, number 1, we're going to get the tire kickers, the people that would waste our time anyway. And I use a quick 8-minute video that talks about commitments financially to being able to buy real estate. So that group of people goes away really fast because the the video screens them out. The second group of people that I get are people that they could get a loan right now. They just didn't know they could. They've been afraid, all the media attention, how tough it is to get a loan. They're uneducated, and there's a lot of folks out there. A lot of those will be first-time home buyers. And so here's an opportunity for you to take that group of buyers from your advertising and put them into a loan with your preferred lending partner and be able to make money with those individuals. They're going to be very short-term, 30 to 60 days in and out of the transaction. Now, here's where you really have the opportunity for the big revenue. Your next group of buyers are going to be those buyers that are still in the property, but it's getting ready to go to foreclosure. And they are now calling, trying to find a place to live. They know they're going to be booted out here very shortly. And it gives you the opportunity to work with them to be a resident beneficiary in one of the properties that will meet their needs. It also gives you the opportunity to participate in a real estate transaction on the house that they are moving out of. Okay, now these individuals are going to need to be in incubation anywhere from 12 to 24 months in order for you to assist them in getting a loan to complete the trust transaction for them to actually purchase the property. Okay. Now, the next group of buyers that will be responding to your ad are going to be buyers that have been wanting to buy a home. They haven't been able to. They've been kicked out of the system because of, it could be anything from not enough time on the job, their credit scores are too low, they don't have any of the other requirements that FHA or VA would require for them to get a loan. And here is a place where you're able to work with that individual to place them in a home that you've got in a land trust, have them as a resident beneficiary. And the incubation period is you and your team working with these individuals to walk them through the process while they are living in the home as a resident beneficiary. You have received the service and closing costs just like in any other transaction. They're going to pay for that. So you're getting a payday on that. And then your team walks them through the process so that down the road in 12, 24, 36 months, they now will be able to be to a position where they're able to get a loan, take the money from their loan, pay off the trust transaction that you set up, and you now get a second big payday along with the monthly residual income that you receive from the monthly payment, because you kept the people in the incubation system and gave them the tools they needed so you could complete your transaction. So that's the long-winded version of that, Bill. Sorry about that. It wasn't a little more concise.
No, we want long-winded. We like that. That's a lot of really excellent information. Let me ask you this now. During that period of time, and maybe this is a question that needs more than just one answer, but how often do you follow up with those people who you have in your Rolodex as the incubated buyers?
Daily, weekly. I wouldn't let it go any longer than 30 days. And not only are you following up with them, your preferred lending partner that is facilitating all of the requirements for them to get the loan is also working with them. And so they're being reminded on a frequent basis of the steps that we're all going through. So, hey, you're going to be getting your own loan. This is part of the process.
You know that in our business, I mean, we're not usually, I mean, I love this information, but we're not usually talking about that buyer getting a loan. We're talking to him about coming into this property without having to get a loan and without having to come up with a normal down payment and so forth. How does that relate to what you just taught us?
This is that buyer that you and I promote to, that we are seasoning in the property so that down the road, 24, 36 months, that they are able to eventually get their own. They're buying the house now. They're a resident beneficiary. They're not actually buying the house. They're a resident beneficiary in the trust, and they're given the full rights of the bundle of rights of occupancy and ownership without having the deed to the property. And the incubation system is to put them into position so that down the road, their loan will pay out the transaction, and then they will be awarded the deed to the property, and they can do with it whatever they want.
So we're working on them that whole time in order to get them positioned to be able to go out and get the loan that's going to be required to take the property out of the trust and get rid of their co-beneficiary and pay off the existing financing and so on.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know, Brett, you're a smart guy. I want to be just like you when I grow up. You've got good stuff to offer. One thing that you said that kind of hit home too was the fact that you're running an ad that I think I'd like to run, and that is I'd like you to run through that a little bit. Buy a home without credit and down payment, and clean up your credit in the meantime. Talk about that and talk about how we can do that. I mean, cleaning up somebody's credit is a pretty bold promise to make. So, I know the answer to some of these things, so do some of the people listening, but I'd like to hear it from you. And I'd like to do it in a way that's not trying to sell anything to anybody or just explaining to them how you can run an ad like that and how I could run an ad like that, clean people's credit up while they're moving into one of my houses without a down payment and without qualifying for a loan and saving money on their monthly payments by tax write-off and so on. It's very inviting. Let me hear about that.
Absolutely. Back in about 1990, of course, I didn't know about land trust back then. I bought my first seller finance transaction that was subject to. I got the deed to the property, and the note was called due on that one too, by the way, because the bank wasn't happy with transferring the deed to us.
Same thing happened to me on my first deal.
And it was really a dumb reason they found out about it. We'd paid the insurance, but we'd switched insurance companies, and the old insurance company was mad that we had not renewed the premium, so they turned us into the bank saying that the premium hadn't been paid, and then all hell broke loose. The other thing that caused me a huge problem is that we had advertised, and this is back in the days when all we had was the newspaper, to buy that you could get a lease option property. And I didn't know how to screen people other than I was using my senses to attempt to screen out and find who would be the best possible candidate that wouldn't cause me grief by putting them in the property on a lease option. And it was a young couple. They moved out of state, and I fell into their sucker about them. And of course, back then it was a lot harder to research people. It wasn't like being able to go to the internet now. And it ended up being the transaction from hell. I couldn't get them out of the property. We're going through eviction process. They trashed the place. I mean, it was just ugly. And I'm thinking, why in the world did I do this? Based on stuff that we learn along the way, gurus and that don't give you the whole story when you go to their event, unlike yours, where. And that was what floored me about you the first time I saw you in Phoenix, was all of the content that literally somebody could walk out of your event and implement everything and have all the protection and everything for their transaction. Well, one of my mortgage brokers said, well, Brett, why aren't you screening? This is back in about 90. He says, why haven't you been screening your buyers through a credit repair company? And I asked him what that was. I'd never heard of it. And he said, yeah. He says, there's companies out there that provide credit repair, and it's a great screening mechanism to find out who's really serious about being financially committed and also who's serious about being in the game to get their own loan to complete your lease option. And he turned me on to a company back then that's still around. They're expensive as all get out. But back then, they were about $600-700, company by the name of Lexington Law. In fact, Jeff Morris and I did a call here a few months ago with a little gal there in Chicago. She had paid them $6,000 for her credit repair and had not really done much for her.
I've been done that. At Lexington Law. I used them too. They cleaned up my credit, but it was thousands of dollars by the time I got through.
Yeah. So at that point, I started using Lexington to screen out our lease option tenants, our tenant buyers, to find out the ones that were legit, the ones that were really committed to wanting to buy a home. And after I started doing that, I never had a problem again like we'd had with that out-of-state couple on our first Subject 2 transaction. Well, fast forward today. I use the steps that I use the following steps to be safe and not use my gut to try and determine who's legitimate and who isn't legitimate. And of course, I and most of the people on the call know that you and I work with and use United Credit and FES for those screening services. Okay, well, that's the first step to whether I'm going to put somebody in the property or not. If they don't enroll in the services, I know they're not serious. I'm not going to take the risk and stick them in my property. Okay, the step number 2 is they've got to have enough money. I call it the service and closing costs because it relates to people that have had experience buying a home, and there's so many of them that have lost their homes that understand that. Of course, we're using that as their contribution in the trust. But since they don't understand that yet, I use a little different terminology. So step number 2, how much do they have set aside to be able to put that money in the contingency for the trust? And then number 3 is what's the monthly payment that they're truly capable of making on the property. Now with Dodd-Frank, here's a couple of things that I'm doing. I don't know that it's right or it's wrong. It's just what I'm doing. Dodd-Frank will only allow, and the new lending restrictions will only allow us to use 43% of an individual's gross income as the monthly payment.
Up to, yeah.
So I don't want to put them in the home at more than that, because when my preferred lending partner is getting them ready for the loan, if I put them in a $4,000 a month house and they can only get, say, $2,500 a month for their loan, now I've got myself a problem at the end of the transaction for them completing the trust with the cash out of their own financing. Much less their inability to pay along the way. Sure. And that's true. And by the time you get the house payment, the utilities and all of those things, I don't want to be getting a call from the trustee saying, hey, George and Sarah haven't made their payments this month.
That's right.
So that's how we are implementing our buyer incubation system for screening through the buyers and not allowing them to waste our time, only working with the ones that are truly committed to home ownership, the responsibility of home ownership, and then the responsibility of getting on track financially.
Well, Brett, in our company, we don't. The only thing we have to sell somebody on a fairly regular basis is the membership in our network and the ability for existing network members to become marketing affiliates with us, and the United Credit Program. And that's basically it. I mean, somebody can come to us and buy an individual book or a recording or documentation manual or whatever, but essentially what we have to sell is our coaching and mentoring program, whereby we coach and mentor people individually and on a unlimited basis, day and night, for the rest of their lives, as they can use us for the rest of their lives. And we don't push real hard on the sales. We do okay. And to be honest with you, when the membership starts getting cumbersome, we just raise prices in order to kind of slow down until somebody drops out and we can bring somebody else in. And right now, the membership that we sell, that used to be $79.95, $8,000 basically, we're selling now for just a little over $2,000. And as far as the affiliate program that we have, which includes everything we have, the affiliates go out and they can, anything that we do with them, we share 50-50 in the net profits. And as far as United Credit and FES, it's the same situation. There's no secret that I'm a member and I make a tiny bit of profit on anyone who signs up for FES. But the thing is, a tiny bit of profit adds up after a while, and pretty soon anyone who is an agent member with United Credit can make a lot of money. I happen to have some dear friends who are making thousands of dollars a month by attending the seminars that they do and becoming experts in the field and so on. So I wanted to say a little bit about that, not to make a gigantic closing selling pitch here, but just, if you wouldn't mind, just reminding me and anyone who's listening what it costs to become an agent with FES. I'd appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. I'd like to mention Randy Cochran. Randy had approached me when we were working on a transaction. He's a real estate broker. He's the master broker for Arizona.
Sure, I know Randy. Uh-huh.
A tremendous guy. I just have a lot of respect for him. He's like a duck. He's always cool, calm, and collect. I've never seen him in all of the different kinds of transactions that I've done with him over the years. I've never seen him fluctuate in his emotion, and he's very calming for the clients, unlike myself if I don't keep a real eye on it. And we were doing one particular transaction, and somehow credit repair came up. And Randy had already purchased his agency along with one of my real estate attorneys that have had do our closings for years. And in fact, when Randy said, "Yeah, Jack's bought an agency too," I said, "You kidding me, really?" And he says, "No." He said, "We believe that there is going to be a huge tidal wave because of this devastation." And I said, "Well, that's a no-brainer for me. I'm very unhappy with Lexington and the other companies we've used." And he said, "Well, you can have your own agency and get paid for doing what you're already doing in your business." And I'm thinking this is something like an H&R Block. I said, "Okay, what are we, 40, 50,000 here, Randy, to have an agency?" He says, "Oh, golf, thank goodness, no." He said, "You can have your own credit restoration."
Like GOL?
GALL.
Oh, Okay.
as in golly gee willikers. And I was glad because I didn't have 50,000. He says, no, you can establish your own credit restoration agency for $286, and that gives you a full working website, website management, hosting, merchant account, shopping cart. Well, that costs hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month because you and I both been hosting our own sites and stuff for years, Bill.
If we had done it some other way.
Yeah, and he said also it will give you all the services as well, the LifeLock, Living Family Trust, the credit restoration, and so $286 and then $87 a month for the business, and perfectly reasonable. I didn't have any problem with that. For me, it was an easy, yeah, let's do it. He said, let me just share one other thing with you, Brett. He said, if you want to build this out like a real estate brokerage, and he and I knew what was happening in our state with equity. In 2 years, equity real estate has gone from zero to being the number one producing brokerage in the state. And he said, you can do the same thing nationally with this. Gives you the license with your credit repair agency to build out a national brokerage just like a big real estate office, if that's something that is of interest to you as well. So not only did we get the services, but the licensing to go nationally to open up these satellite agencies. And
you can do all of that for the, how much?
$286.87 a month.
Wow. Yeah, because I pay more than that. That's really great. That is good. I didn't pay much more than that, but that's excellent.
So I encourage everyone to use it as a tool in your business and the cash between your transactions.
Well, you know, what I like about what you said is, and I hadn't thought about that. I didn't even know I could do it until just now. When I run an ad in the paper, my ad usually says, no down payment, no credit qualifying, 2 payments and closing costs, moves you in, beautiful 3+2 with the pool, da-da-da, and I get some calls. But if I were to add that in there and credit restoration or cleaning up your credit, I can see how that would really, really work. That's nice.
It does.
I'm glad I know you.
In fact, let me run my ad by you. In fact, let's do Vegas. The ad would go in Craigslist.
Why don't you, tell us what it is and then send it to me so I can email it out to people without them having to take time to copy it all down right now.
Sure.
That'll be one of our free gifts today.
You bet. In fact, I'll donate another free gift to you. I've written out the buyer incubation system. If they want to call in and request that to you, I'd be happy to send that out.
Or email bg@landtrust.net.
Okay, yeah.
Wonderful.
The ad is simple. Buy your home with no bank qualifying and fix your credit too. All areas available. 3 easy steps. Bad credit or good credit, okay. Call Brett today and the phone number.
And it even rhymes there at the end.
Yes. And because I leave it so generic, deliberately so, now I'm sending them to that 8-minute video for screening instead of using the only 2 payments and closing costs moves you in. Takes a little bit more work.
Here's what I'm going to do. You just changed my direction for today and the next couple of days. I'm going to do an 8-minute video for our network members that incorporates that information and a simple explanation, colored slide presentation as to what they can do with our program. Now, I'll have that ready, hopefully, if I can work today, if I can get the day to do it. Shouldn't take me more than a day or so to get it done, and I'll make that available to any of our network members, along with the other stuff that we'll be giving to network members along the way. So that's another incentive to become a network member, and also it's something else to use as a tool if you happen to be a marketing affiliate of ours. And remember, if you're a network member and you're not a marketing affiliate, I hope you can see how much money you're missing out on, or would. It's only $49 a month to be a marketing affiliate, but you have to have been a member for at least 3 months. So if you join today for the $21.95, and after 3 months, and if you wanted to start the affiliate program, it's $49 a month, and we share 50-50 in anything we can make together. Brett, I just want to thank you. You're one of the best speakers, most encouraging, motivating people I know. And I'm really glad that your throat cleared up.
Oh, thanks, Bill.
I was worried that, Heidi said you were a little hoarse. And I thought, oh, my God, how did that happen? So now I know that I misunderstand. I was picturing a Shetland pony in your living room.
Yes. I'll email that over to you so that they can get that from you. And
all right.
Bill, thanks. Oh, it's so nice to be with you again. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you. And guys, take advantage of some of these offers. Don't sit back on your. I would never say ass out loud in a public group, but don't do that. Don't sit on that thing. And let's get some business done. Let's make some money. I'm just really, really hungry to get you all making money. So let's do this. Let's stop calling in to listen to Bill Gatten wang on about something that's not helping you. Let's Bill Gatten wang on about something that's putting thousands and thousands of dollars in your pocket. And the only thing stopping that from happening is you. So like Cork Horner said a couple of weeks ago, when you learn to get over yourself, you'll find out that yourself is the only barrier to your success. Remember, I'm going to leave you with this thought. Your success is always present, hiding in your insecurity. Think about that for a while. All the success that you'll ever need is right there, right now, hiding in the shadow of your insecurity. So with that said, Brett, thank you so much for being with us, and thank you guys for joining us. Oh, wait, let me see if I need to answer questions here. I forgot to check the ding-dong. Let's see if I can do that here. Questions. Oh, yeah, we got a bunch of questions. Hang on a minute, guys, before I let you go. Consider the meeting done, but I'll go through these questions. Let's see. Seeing only the home page. Wonderful to see you big. Hey, Bill, Brett Ehlers. Your face looks great. Thank you, Brett. Russ Gatten, how can we help these people stuck in an interest-only loan who are denied a modification? Well, that's us, man. Denied a modification. You need to mute yourself when adjusting your camera. It's real. Sorry. How much does it cost to join FES? That's 200 and what did you say, Brett?
286.
And all you got to do is just let me know that you want to, and I'll put you in touch with Brett immediately. And let's see, do you still have that special that was offered a while ago? Yeah, Jerry, we do have it. I don't remember exactly what you're referring to, but if we offered a special and you can remind me what it was, I'm sure I can stick with it. Oh, I know what it was. For the $21.95, if you're joining the network, you can do that in 2 payments. Yeah, that's what it was. Let's see. Lawrence said, would a prospect who has already lost a house or has walked away from the property be considered for the incubation program? Absolutely. That's the whole point of the incubation program that Brad talked about. Those are the people you want. If they've been foreclosed on, they need a place to live. And get them in right now. Get them into a trust, or just get them ready to go find them a house that they can move into. Please send me the buyer incubation information. That was from Lawrence. And let's see, I think that's it for today. So again, guys, thanks a million for joining us. And to get that information, just send me an email. And I will probably hold off on giving you Brett's ad until I can get that 5 or 6 minute presentation done for you. And if you're a network member, you're going to get lots of good treatment from us. So thanks again. See you next Saturday. And for the marketing affiliates, don't forget our meeting Thursday night with Jeff, 5 p.m. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Brett.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.